to call and to respond, or to sing all at once? That is the question. Well, I assume that if you've clicked on this video, it's because you already appreciate that as a kirtan leader, there is a difference between kirtans which are all call and response or all sung together. And in this video, we're going to dive into the pros and the cons, the challenges and the pitfalls, and also, just from my own experience, the reasons why we might use one or the other way to lead a kirtan. And hopefully we'll end with an invitation to try it out for yourself and see what happens. So my name's Daisy. I've been leading kirtans now for 12 or more years. Who knows, by this point you lose count. But it has been many, many happy hours of singing, chanting and teaching also others to unlock their voices from within and to listen to the song of their soul. One of the topics that has come up in my group coaching calls recently was, does it always have to be call and response? And I realised that recently I've been advocating more for a call and response approach in kirtans. And that's just because where I've found myself in my journey, I realised the need to re-establish that as part of the practice when leading a group in kirtan. Because I would say that if you do not come from a specific kirtan tradition, like the Vaishnava tradition or the Sikh tradition, where the call and response is deeply ingrained in a methodical and kind of fundamental way, then it's likely that it's a more, I don't like to say loose approach, but it's more forgiving in a way. So it lends itself to being a free-for-all with the singing, and that has its own beauty, but it can also have its disadvantages as well. So what I started to notice in the groups that I was leading is that depending on who was attending, if I would sing and lead and people would start to learn the mantra, and then as soon as they've got the hang of it, they're all singing at once. Unless I explicitly say, I sing and you sing back, then after a few rounds, we're all singing together. Two problems with this is that if I stop singing for a round, half or more of the group, sometimes the entire group, will stop singing. This is a huge thing for me, and it was quite frustrating actually, because you completely lose the momentum from the kirtan. And the other thing is, just practically, you can't sustain that if you want to have a really long and beautiful kirtan, because the longer they go on, not necessarily, but you have more time for it to evolve, to mature, to blossom, and to become ripe throughout that process. But if you can't sustain that, because it's also not healthy to sing continuously for however long, then kind of something happens and it doesn't allow that to be brought to fruition. So I started to play again with using words, spoken words, to direct and give that shape through words, give that safety that people were finding in my voice, being there as the strongest microphone voice there, as the safety, instead to go, she has said, now I sing. And now, so it becomes like that. And it is the case that we want to create a safe container for people. Many people have got traumas with their voice. Many people haven't sung for years, or have had a bad experience with singing. And so there can be a great tenderness when coaxing that voice out. And I can also completely understand that if it feels like the group is not sure or not singing, then you'll just stop singing. You only want to be certain. So what I want to just remind myself and maybe just share with you is, why do we share kirtan? What's the intention? Because when we know the intention behind everything, then we can see if how we do something is contributing to that. Is it supporting that? Is it conducive? Or is it going against that? And so I love to share kirtan because it is uplifting. It brings us together. It's a sense of community that comes there. It is about transforming raw emotions and creating something beautiful and collective out of that, which can become an offering. It is about listening to the sound inside that wants to form and be brought out, and to experience that closeness of your voice, of yourself, in a sensed vibration which impacts one another. These vibrations changes then our vibration of our minds, of our emotions, of our spirit, and we can really come from head to heart through that process. we can lose ourselves in the repeated sounds, in the beauty of the melody, the beauty of the singing, and it's really, really fun. And of course, it can also take us to a deep space of vibrant silence as the chant ends. So how does call and response or singing together contribute to that? And so we just kind of touched on it in that first part, that you want to be able to create a journey, and if that ability to sustain that is affected by not being able to make a structure, so if you sing and people stop singing, then it does affect that cohesiveness, that longevity of the sharing. So that's kind of the first part. And the second part, it's about listening, actually. One of the main things that I find so beautiful in Kirtan is that we learn to listen again to something other than the repetitive sound of our minds. Or we need to go there shopping, or I'm not good enough, or I can't sing, all these kind of things. We create a sound that we all tune into and listen. And it's even a learning process, which is quite a kind of, it requires us to be present. So we are listening and we are being present. And when we do call and response, it creates that possibility that we have to listen carefully, otherwise we won't be able to sing what's coming back. When we are singing with the leader, we don't need to listen anymore. It's a kind of like letting go and being carried. And that is all well and good to a certain extent. But going back to the intent of the whole thing, it's a co-creation, And I feel, also as an Ayurvedic practitioner, that whenever I do something as an Ayurvedic practitioner, it should be 50-50. Like, you meet someone, you give them your understanding, your knowledge. The patient themselves has to also meet you halfway. And more I feel that this is an invitation that I like to bring in Kirtan as well, that to trust that people also want to rise. They want to stand and they want to sing and they want to learn something that's maybe slightly difficult as well. And through listening, we hone that sense of trust in listening. Because when we want to evolve and we want to go deeper and we want to tap into our true selves, we have to listen. And the other side of it is that as people that maybe want to say we use healing sounds, we're creating sounds mostly, but actually it's a part of listening. Because the way those sounds become healing or conscious is through trying to hear the subtleties in the voice within, that whisper that guides us here and there, the body telling us something, or just the heart knocking like, this isn't right, or that, let's go this way instead. And I feel that Kirtan and chanting is one hell of a way to really cultivate that sense again, because it gets lost in the noise of modern life. So this is the first thing, was about structure and making a kind of cohesive, long or artistic offering that we want to offer up. The second is about listening and the sense that we are tapping into something deeper or finer or greater than just what's going on in this space here, which is just on repeat. And so I just touched on it just then, but Kirtan is an offering, and I think this is something that remains a thread through all of the traditions. It is an offering it's a prayer. It's a collective prayer to the divine. And so when we can make those aspects as beautiful as possible, it's like offering a flower or a bouquet even to the divine, whatever we think that is of the divine, whether it's nature itself or God personified as Krishna. When we really listen to somebody in a conversation, this is the greatest gift. If we scribble out something on a piece of paper and just give it to someone, that's okay, you throw it away. But if you take some time and you paint the picture and you really feel into it, even if it's not perfect, and you give that as a birthday card to someone, it's such a beautiful offering. Same in our kirtans. We can put a little bit of effort in to make it wonderful. So these are like the two aspects I would say for most kirtan leaders who are at a stage where they've started to notice that it's a bit frustrating to just play with this all singing together kind of chaos. And when I say chaos, I don't mean it in necessarily a bad way, because there are some traditions that is how they do it, and it is wonderful when you've got the percussion and you've got the people who have been chanting for years, and it is so wonderful. So the two more aspects that I want to just discuss with you, and one of them is, it's still kind of tied with the listening, it's about the call and response itself, the sacredness of the call and response process within itself. And for Vaishnava tradition, and I wouldn't say that I'm a Vaishnava at all, but I do love to sing to Krishna, and I'm in deep reverence of the skill and the devotion of the Vaishnavas as they really stretch the limits of musicality, and they really have ingrained what is kirtan to them. And part of this is the call and response. So they may have a really complicated melody and the leader sings it and the crowd is at first very unsure, and it might come back as like a moaning, groaning, but then as there's a persistence and a trust in it, it's a bit like a birth canal, and sometimes you don't know if you're going to make it or not, and then suddenly it's, the kirtan births itself into something incredibly beautiful. When we go through a challenge, that gives way to a deeper confidence, and each time the mantra is repeated by the group, it gains the shakti of the attention and that repetition. So something really great is happening in that process. But just the call and response itself on that level, it's like a conversation. And as I was just mentioning before, is we are singing to Krishna, and through kirtan, it's like he's singing back. And so it's a conversation, it's an exchange. Usually when we say our prayers out, nothing comes back. But in kirtan, we can kind of play this out almost, that I call and there's a response. We hear the divine in one another as we sing. And it is just like any really good conversation, it can really grow and it can really deepen when there's trust and interest and attention and, listening. This is really, really a very, very beautiful thing to explore. So the fourth thing, and this may not be for everyone, but this is around complexity of melody. So if you're like me, and I mostly would say I've been playing chords, but I would say musically I'm able to do more than that, and this has led me into more melodic explorations. And so again with the Vaishnavas, they do play more melody-led kirtans. Also where there are traditional Indian kirtans, they're melody-based. The whole music system is melody-based and not chords-based. So this is a Western thing that we have kind of brought into kirtan. There's nothing wrong with it actually, because kirtan is classified in the Vedas as Desi music. Desi, not Daisy. It means for the community, and it also has a definition embedded in it that it will change and be different from context to context. So I actually really deeply feel there's nothing wrong with singing with chords, and there is a great beauty in that simplicity as well. And on the other hand, such beauty that can be derived from the melodic compositions, the scales, the ragas. And these, strangely enough, they lend themselves really strongly to a call and response format. So this, and I say strangely because it's more complicated, so you think that people will want to sing along with you more. But as you grow your confidence in singing these melodies, you should equally kind of grow your confidence in sharing the verbal instructions to the people. And that might sometimes mean breaking it down in half. So I'm just going to play now a melody of a kirtan that I've been learning myself. It's a Krishna Kirtan. It's a very beautiful melody. I don't know who composed it. I learnt it from Premanjali, who's a wonderful kirtan singer. And just have a sense of like how this will be a call and response kirtan in a way. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's definitely more challenging than just playing it with the chords. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So the melody itself it gets lost when you just play the chords, if you know what I mean. But how are we going to break this down to people? Well, I've found that it can really build confidence to break it down with words, to slow things down, to not be in a rush. Like, we're here in a kirtan space. Who knows where it's going to go? Maybe we just sing one tonight. We're not trying to fit in as many numbers as possible. No, we want to dive into one. And so I'll break it down into half. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You know, and then get them to call and response. So we keep doing it like this. We keep doing it like this and building up the length of each verse until, yeah, we manage to sing it all together. It can be a bit of training, because those people who have got used to what they know, maybe it will be like, oh, what's this? But it's definitely, I would invite you, if you're at that point, to really look into some melody-based kirtans and see how they are for you, and experiment a little bit with leading the group, because I mean, as I said before, you know, it isn't really sustainable and it's not really good for the voice either to be singing continuously. And the other thing about it is that, you know, for me, I think that the most beautiful thing in the world is actually the voices of the group singing back to me without my voice imposed on top of it. I like my voice here. It's strong, it's, you know, it holds space, but you get sick of your own voice, and it's quite a dominant voice as well. So I really, really simply love that sound of the group singing back. But what's the pitfalls of doing call and response, and also complicated melodies? You can lose people along the way. So, you know, that was very difficult, what I've just done there. I would not just do that with a group of beginners. I wouldn't do it at the end of a yoga class where I always play a little kirtan at the end. So context is very important. So if we could kind of group it, so when we do singing all together, you lose your structure. When you do complex and call and response and nuanced, you can lose people, and you really have to gauge the levels of the confidence and instill that confidence in people bit by bit. Otherwise, you will lose people out of that container. And as I was saying at the beginning, like, one of the reasons I do kirtan is for the inclusiveness of it, that feeling like we are all together. Nobody's left off the bus. You know, whether you know no music at all, whether your voice is dusty and rusty because you haven't sung since your choir teacher told you can't sing. You know, everybody's welcome here. If you can sing out of tune, whether you can sing amazingly, none of it matters. We are opening the heart in this moment. And so not to lose that on the journey of your development as an artist, which is also important, you know. So I really love this notion. I saw a reel about Rick Rubin. You know, he's a great artist, and he was asked, like, what do you not think of the audience response? And he says, not at all. It does not cross my mind, because the moment you start making music for the audience or making art for the audience, it stops being art. It is commerce. And I loved this. I absolutely loved this. And I was feeling into how does it apply to kirtan. It applies 100%, and at the same time, it applies 100% the other way, because you're not just an artist in that moment. You also, in the same moment, you're a space holder. And so part of your art is that inclusivity. But how can we not compromise our artistry at the same time being inclusive? And it's like encouraging everyone to bring their contribution, their art, their creative offering of the voice into the mix at the same time, and not worry about what anyone else thinks about it. So do contemplate on that, and let me know in the comments if something resonates there. I wanted to say one more thing. If you have just started leading kirtans, okay, don't get hung up on it. Do what's easy and simple. Keep alive with what is in front of you, with who the people are, who's your crowd, what your level of ability is. If you're just getting used to chords and you're still unfamiliar with the keyboard, then don't worry about it. This is like the next level up. But you can even early on start cultivating that dual awareness of yourself, the presence, and of the group in the room, and checking that you're not playing for the audience and you're not just getting lost in yourself. I think this is the fine balance that we want to strike. And so, yeah, the real final point is about don't get dogmatic about it. That would be if I could say one thing about the whole thing, whatever you do, don't Don't get tight about it, don't get serious about it. Find out what is alive in the moment, what's working for you, what brings you joy in that moment. Because as my singing teacher said to me, which I loved, is when you feel beautiful singing, then others will feel the beauty of it. And this is one of the main reasons for doing the kirtan in the first place. We want to bring that beauty in, that absolute innocent beauty also. And how we find that beauty in ourselves is just when we're authentic and when we allow ourselves to feel comfortable, but we also have the attention there and we keep that freshness of exploration, and we don't get tight or stuck like this is the only way now, this is the only way, because it really depends which way is the best on the context, on the melody. Sometimes a hybrid way is really the best way, you know, and just see, you don't need to drag it out because now we do call and response and people are getting bored and they've fallen off the wagon, you know. And then it can be really wonderful to say, everybody join in. And conversely, you're all singing together. Like, for example, we have one Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, which just lends itself naturally to singing all together. But it's so simple and so beautiful that I love to hear the people singing it. So I just sometimes drop out and say, now you sing it. And of course we should also enjoy it maximally. That's really, really important. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you're interested in developing your kirtan leading skills more, or your harmonium playing to the point where you don't have to think about it, looking at chords, and you just want to be able to play with your eyes closed, maybe even start transitioning from chords to melody, then please do check out some of the resources which I'll link below. And I have an app where you can, full of mantra tutorials and also interesting talks on mantra, as well as a harmonium course for beginners. So lots of love, keep singing every day and let your heart vibrate with the song.